Greetings, beloved listeners, and welcome to another powerful episode of Divine Discussions with your host, Chief Apostle Veronica Yisrael. Today we're diving into a crucial and often uncomfortable conversation. This topic is the church and its role in racism, slavery, and the path to decolonization. We'll explore the historical complexities of religious institutions like the Catholic Church, evangelical churches, and the Southern Baptist denominations in the transatlantic slave trade and the perpetuation of systematic racism. But we won't just stop there. We'll also talk about the importance of decolonizing these systems before we even begin to think about deconstructing them. This conversation is necessary, uncomfortable, and vital for the healing and the spiritual growth we actually seek. So let's open our hearts and our minds as we confront these truths of our history together. So we want to begin. To understand the church's role in racism and slavery, we need to start with history. The Catholic Church, as one of the most powerful institutions in the world during the age of exploration, it played a pivotal role in justifying colonization and the enslavement of Africans. So let's break this down a little bit. Doctrine of discovery. In 1943, the Pope Alexander VI issued a papal bull called Intercartera, which granted Christian explorers the right to claim lands, territories discovered, quote unquote, in the name of their European monarchies or monarchs. This doctrine essentially gave permission for the colonization of non-Christian lands and the subjugation of non-Christian peoples. It was the theological underpinning that justified slavery and the stripping away of indigenous lands. In this way, the Catholic Church was a key architect in the formation of the racial hierarchies that underpin slavery that we still have ripples effects today. Now, a lot of people say, well, yeah, we know the Roman Catholic Church had a great part. But not only the Roman Catholic Church, though they spearheaded and held control and caused these things to be in motion and quote unquote sanitize chattel enslavement. But not only that, we have the role of the Protestant churches, in which many of our African American brothers and sisters and siblings are still a part of to this day. Now, the evangelical and Southern Baptist churches also played significant roles in sustaining these systems. They may not have created, but they helped to keep them in place because they benefited from them. By the time the transatlantic slave trade reached its heights, these churches were not only silent on the matter of slavery, but very often complicit. Many Southern Baptist churches leaders argued that slavery was divinely ordained, using scripture to justify the enslavement of Africans. This theological justification for racism laid the groundwork for segregation and the enduring of racial inequities we still see today. Now, as we sit with these historical truths, I want to ask you this. And I want you to think about it, and you can let me know in the comments section. How have the teachings of the churches you've encountered influenced your understanding of race and equality? Are the remnants of these colonial era beliefs still present in modern religious spaces in society? And I want you to write those down. Write it in the comments section for me. Write your reflections. And let's keep this in mind as we move forward. As we look closer, it becomes clear, crystal clear, that religious doctrine was manipulated to fit the agenda of those in power. The Bible itself was used as a tool, a strategic tool to dehumanize enslaved Africans and indigenous peoples. For example, we have biblical justification for slavery. Passages were handpicked from the Old and New Testament and they were interpreted in ways that justified the practice of slavery. Verses from the book of Genesis, such as the story of Noah's curse on Ham, where it was twisted and purportedly stated that curse of Ham theory, which claimed that African descendants were cursed by God to be subservient to others. This interpretation was used to rationalize the brutal enslavement of Africans, even though it was a gross distortion of the original text. Now, evangelical Christianity, particularly in the American South, grew alongside the institution of slavery. Preachers often use the Bible to reinforce the idea of white supremacy and the moral righteousness of slavery. Southern Baptist churches were particularly vocal in supporting the Confederacy during the Civil War, defending slavery as a positive, quote-unquote, good. Beyond slavery, racism became institutionalized in church structures, from segregation of congregations to the exclusion of black ministers and leadership roles. The church perpetuated racism long after slavery had been abolished. These practices were made to ensure that white supremacy remained ingrained within religious organizations. At this point, I want to invite you to reflect on how these historical realities have shaped not only the institutions we see today, but also the personal beliefs we may hold. How often have we considered the weight of these historical distortions in shaping our own spiritual practices? Give it a thought. Let me know in the comment section your reflections. As we confront this history, the question becomes, where do we go from here? The term decolonization is critical in this discussion. Before we can talk about deconstructing our faith or religious practices, we must first decolonize. Decolonizing religious thought means dismantling the Eurocentric interpretations of scripture and faith that have long dominated religious teachings. It requires us to confront how Western Christianity has been intertwined with systems of oppression from slavery to colonialism, and actively work to remove those frameworks from our spiritual practice. For centuries, the image of God has been presented as white, patriarchal figure, a sky daddy, reinforcing the idea that divinity is inherently white and male. Decolonizing requires us to reimagine and reclaim the divine in diverse and inclusive forms. We must ask, how has the image of God been used to justify racism and white supremacy? And how can we reclaim a more inclusive, non-oppressive vision of the divine? Many modern religious practices are steeped in colonial history. The very structure of worship services, the way scripture is interpreted, and the leadership hierarchies within churches often reflect the colonial mindset. Decolonizing means reclaiming indigenous spiritual practices, uplifting marginalized voices, and creating space for new interpretation of scripture that honors the humanity of all people. Now take a moment to reflect on your own spiritual practices. In what ways might they still be shaped by colonial thinking? What can you do to actively decolonize your faith? This could evolve or involve reading theological works from diverse perspectives, engaging with indigenous spiritual traditions, or simply questioning long-held beliefs that may be rooted in oppression. Now, once we begin this process of decolonizing our faith, we can then move into deconstructing it. Many people have heard of faith deconstruction, where individuals critically examine and dismantle toxic elements of their religious upbringing. But if we jump straight into deconstruction without decolonization first, we risk perpetuating the very system of oppression we are trying to dismantle. Deconstruction is the process of questioning and re-evaluating the beliefs and structures that no longer serve us. It's about peeling back the layers of indoctrination to find what's authentic and true for us. For many, this means letting go of harmful theologies that promote exclusion, bigotry, misogynistic ideologies, and supremacy. After we have decolonized our faith, deconstruction allows us to rebuild something more inclusive, equitable, and loving. This may involve rethinking our relationship with Scripture, reconsidering the leadership structures in our spiritual communities, or even creating entirely new forms of worship that are free from colonial influence. I want to ask you a question. Are you in the process of deconstructing your faith? How might your deconstruction process change if you first focus on decolonizing your spiritual worldview? I want you to write down some of the areas where you might need to start decolonizing your faith. And if you need assistance with that, I want to invite you to come. Find a community in the Soul Awakening Sanctuary. We meet every Sunday afternoon at 4 p.m. for our Sunday's Sacred Circle. And on our Wednesday night, our Soul Elevation sessions at 7 p.m., where we are taking and building a community and taking the time to decolonize and deconstruct and build a space where everyone is welcome. All paths are honored, and we uphold everyone in dignity and respect and honor the divinity within each person. And so, if you're looking for a spiritual community, a home to call your own, people of like-minded faith that can walk this journey with you into spirituality, into decolonizing and deconstruction, come on over to the Soul Awakening Sanctuary. We meet on Zoom every Sunday and Wednesday night, that is. And we meet on Zoom, and it's a private, sacred space where you can be yourself and learn and share in a space that's built for your complete wholeness and a sanctuary for your well-being. Now, in closing, beloveds, the path of confronting the church's role in racism, slavery, and colonization is not an easy one. It requires us to face painful truths, but it also offers the opportunity for profound healing. Decolonizing and deconstructing are not about destroying faith. I want to make that clear. Decolonizing and deconstructing are not about destroying faith. They are about liberating it. They are about freeing ourselves from the chains of oppression and reclaiming the divine in its truest, most loving form. As we rebuild, let us commit to creating spiritual communities that are inclusive, loving, and just. Let us use this process not just to free ourselves, but to uplift and support others on their journeys. I want to challenge you, dear listeners and viewers and supporters, to start your journey of decolonization and deconstruction today. This is just not only for people of color, but everybody, every race, because colonization took place on every continent, everywhere. We are all affected. So begin by questioning the colonial roots of your faith and seek out diverse perspectives to enrich your understanding of the divine. Together we can rebuild a more just, loving, and liberated spiritual future. Keep an open mind and an open heart for a new horizon of what we can do together as we continue to walk in this world, making change, beginning with ourselves. It's possible if we put our mind to it. If you found value in these sessions and you wish to support our mission of spreading love, faith, truth, and freedom, I invite you to consider making a financial contribution. Your support helps us to continue to provide high quality content, reach more people, and create a safe space for healing and growth. We deeply appreciate any support you can provide, whether financial or otherwise. Your generosity enables us to continue to offer these sessions and this podcast and other things that we're doing for spiritual enlightenment and enrichment. And it helps us to expand our reach to help more people on their spiritual journeys. So those that would like to give a financial contribution, the Cash App is pinned above in the comment section. It's $, capital VSY, lowercase ISRAEL 2021. And we thank you so very much in advance. Personally, I am incredibly grateful for each and every one of you who follow us Your presence and participation and support, your comments, they mean the world to me and to our community. Together we are creating a safe space of love and healing. If you enjoyed this session, please follow me on all social media platforms at Chief Apostle Veronica Israel for more content on personal development and spiritual growth. Also feel free to share this video with all you feel could benefit from it. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to this channel. We love you all because this channel is for you. And thank you for joining me today. If this conversation resonated with you, again, please share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And as always, I love each and every one of you. I look forward to our next session, an episode of Divine Discussions with your host, Chief Apostle Veronica Israel. Stay blessed, stay free, and stay liberated. Until next time, peace be with you.